So this guy is 58 years young. 58. He does Ironman triathletes. He's an Ironman triathlete out of Hawaii. Look at that body. What's right or what's wrong with it? Yeah, look how rounded his back is. And he has no butt. But you see his tattoo? Because when I show you the next picture, 38 minutes later, thank God he had a tattoo, because it doesn't even look like the same guy.
Hey guys, today our guest is Brian Bradley. Brian Bradley is the Vice President of Egoscue, which is a world-renowned therapy protocol. Brian has been studying true biomechanics and human anatomy using the Egoscue Method for more than 25 years, and his postural training, fitness experience, and engaging personality get people of all ages moving and helps them to get best results. Brian has trained some of the top athletes in professional sports as well as the legend Tony Robbins, who uses these techniques to immediately decrease stress level. Finally, we can say that Brian is definitely on a mission to help millions of people learn how to live healthier, pain-free, and achieve complete fitness. I am privileged to invite Brian Bradley to the show. Thank you, Brian, for coming to the show.
No problem. Glad to be here.
Brian, before we go into the questions, can you share where can people connect with you?
Yeah, there's multiple places. They can go to egoscue.com, which is, on my thing here, because you won't be tested on how to spell it or pronounce it, which is kind of fun. Egoscue. And they can go to @Egoscue Method on Instagram or the Egoscue Method on Facebook. Or my personal is the Brian Bradley on Instagram and the Brian Bradley on Twitter and Facebook. And I try to answer as many direct message questions as possible, as you know. And the great thing about that is I try to engage that audience as much as possible.
Thank you, Brian. Brian, if you don't mind, can you explain briefly what is Egoscue Method and how does it work?
Yeah, very simply, Egoscue, the Egoscue Method, is something I ran into 30 years ago when I met Pete Egoscue, and I luckily ran into him because it was about a discussion about the human body. And when I finally found someone who really knew what they were talking about, that's why I call it true biomechanics, because Pete Egoscue is unmatched as it relates to being the father of functional movement, being the father of postural medicine. So having said that, the Egoscue Method is a form of posture corrective exercise therapy where everything is focused on realigning the joints of the body to get closer to this alignment, which is from the side view vertical, from the front view vertical. And when your body is like that, you can live pain-free. And we do that through a specific sequence of exercises that's personalized for you. And that's why we do so much stuff like this over digital, whether it's Zoom or FaceTime or Skype, it's just an easy thing to do.
Brian, can people live pain-free forever?
Well, that's a great question. In today's technology society, we're like this all the time, right? We're even walking like this. We're eating dinner like this. That's not going away. So what I would tell you is the answer is yes and no. No, if you don't do your exercises and all you do is look at your phone all day. Yes, if you can reset your body, when you choose to reset your body, and those are key words, when you choose to do what we tell you to do from Egoscue, you're in a much different mindset. And then your body will respond accordingly. But it's like brushing your teeth. If you want healthier teeth, you have to do a little bit of work.
Brian, you say that sitting is not smoking, but sitting is sport. Can you explain that?
Yeah, you and I are sitting for the next 60 minutes, basically, just like this. And so is your audience. A lot of them are sitting in cars, sitting, driving, sitting at home, sitting on the couch, slouching, COVID-19, sequestering in their house. Because of this virus, normal movement, think about the typical Indian, right, who moves for a living, is now not moving. And they're walking less than 1,000 steps a day. Less than 1,000 steps. When they may have been moving 5,000, 6,000, 10,000 before coronavirus hit. So my recommendation would be, we know that sitting is here. It was here permanently before. Why not change the body going to sitting? So instead of saying sitting is the new cancer, sitting is the new smoking, why don't we say sitting is a sport, let's train for it. And just do a minimal set of exercises as an interrupt to sitting.
Yes, Brian. Brian, why do ergonomic chairs do not work?
Okay. I absolutely recommend that you sit on a balanced chair. But it doesn't have to be a $4,000 ergonomic chair. Like this chair, I guarantee you was built by the lowest bidder. This chair was built by whoever could make it cheapest. And after 90 days of sitting here doing Skype, FaceTime, Zoom all the time, I have a tendency to want to do this and lean on my desk, which has forced the chair to get a little bit imbalanced. I can feel that it's a little lighter on this side. It does a little bit of this. This chair will be replaced very soon. Maybe by one of my Egoscue blocks. Maybe by a swapper chair that kind of moves around like this. When you have a pelvis that's tilted in this way, let's say your body looks like this. Do you think it matters what chair you're sitting in? Because that body is going to override every chair that it sits in, versus a year later, he can sit in any chair that he wants. So we've got to get you to a point where your body is not reliant on external stimulus. It comes from within. It's almost like the psychology. Hey, you're really a good person. I like you. I approve of you. That's a person relying on somebody to tell them how good they are, versus saying, hey, I like me. I'm a very good person, and I know that I'm going to be here to help other people. One is intrinsic, one is extrinsic. And when you need extrinsic support, meaning the chair, and you haven't fixed the intrinsic, then physiologically, emotionally, and mentally, you're off.
Brian, you always say that the best way to teach is through showing. Can you explain more about that?
So 80% of the population is visual. So we know they're visual, auditory, visual kinesthetic, auditory, whatever. But a majority, they learn by seeing. So that's why I use these pictures. When I pull up a picture like this and say, hey, here's your x-ray on day 1. And then here's your x-ray. Now they're reversed. One's on one side versus the other. But you can look at the dates. Here's your x-ray a year later. That's a young girl. And the visual reaction by her mother when she saw the x-rays created an internal visceral reaction. So it's very important to get people to realize that when you can change someone's life, especially their children who have issues going on, you have them forever as a client. So the visual is very important as it relates to what's wrong, and then no judgment about what's wrong. Let's just correct it.
Yes, Brian. Brian, many therapists now treat the symptoms but not the real cause of the pain. What do you think about that?
Well, having invented that statement back in the 70s and 80s, Pete Egoscue basically introduced the word functional to the world as it relates to movement. He introduced symptom versus cause, or cause versus symptom, or symptom versus problem. And I think it's the only way to go about healthcare. If you have a cavity in your tooth, you can have it fixed by the dentist, but you better start brushing and flossing to correct the problem. Here's a better way. Stop eating sugar, right? So there's another way to solve it. So the same thing, if my neck or my back or my knee or my foot or my shoulder hurts, we better start looking at why, which is why I encourage your people watching or listening to go to a mirror, stand in front of the mirror in the least amount of clothing possible, get in their bedroom, make sure you close the windows because people will be looking in, close the windows and strip down to whatever you're comfortable in and look in the mirror and say, is my body level? Is it straight? You'll see that one foot's out like this. It's collapsed in, the shoulders here, the head's here, or have someone take pictures on your phone to show you. Or when your listeners say to me, yeah, Brian, I would like to take you up on, hey, can I have you take a look at what you think is wrong with me because you think I might be a candidate for your one-on-one coaching, then we'll easily do that to show you what we think is the problem, like we did with these people on the phone.
Brian, why our head position is crucial?
So you know the NFL, right? So the NFL is the American version of football. So remember, not soccer. That's a different type of football. But this is a brain on this side. This is a brain with the white fluid caught up in the frontal lobe. That white around there should not be there. The other picture is the same brain 5 minutes later when the head was taken from here. By moving the body down here, it repositioned the head and repositioned the neck enough for the cerebral spinal fluid to move up and down again. The reason I show you that is this guy could be the next guy that shoots himself in the chest because he has so much head pain and memory loss and violence because of chronic concussions, CTE, and we're trying to save his life by saying, let's give your body an organic chance to move that fluid off the brain. And that's what the exercises do. It's very simple. Like here's a picture that I just put in Bulletproof, Dave Asprey's box that he gives out. But this young girl, look at that picture before and after. Look at her head position. If you can get that done in one visit, your whole life has changed. And look, I'm excited about this to introduce it to your people, but I'm more excited for them to get excited about it and introduce it to all of their friends and family around them because they need to move more, but they don't need to go out and do crazy stuff. They need to just move smarter.
Actually, Brian, my friend is in USA and he said that he's starting to go to gym. And I said that don't go to gym unless your posture is correct. So I recommended to go to Egoscue training workshops and he went there. So I really get what you are saying.
You've just, whether he chooses to do or not, is up to him. But at least you led the horse to water. Now it's up to him to drink. So we've got to take a look at it and let's find out why people are coming in. I always ask the question, who referred you? Why are we talking? And they'll tell me, 10 of my friends told me I should do this, or I read the pain-free book, or something of that nature. Well, my job is to get them to realize that they've taken the first step in their next life that they're creating. Like, this is not a joke. This is one of these things that, I won't say a bad word, but I'm not screwing around here by doing these podcasts and stuff because I know the whether your podcast only went to 10 people or it went to 50,000 like it's going. I'm looking at it going, it's an opportunity to spread the word out of Egoscue so that people can not have to suffer anymore. Especially now, in COVID-19, they're suffering. Think about mentally. And when you can reposition your torso and your head to a better position, your brainwave function works better, which means you might save a life by getting them to breathe with their diaphragm and breathe into their healthy brain.
Brian, can you explain why correcting our posture is important before we go to gym or do workouts?
100%. I got another picture for you. So this guy is 58 years young. 58. He does Ironman triathletes. He's an Ironman triathlete out of Hawaii. Look at that body. What's right or what's wrong with it? Yeah, look how rounded his back is. And he has no butt. But you see his tattoo? Because when I show you the next picture, 38 minutes later, thank God he had a tattoo, because it doesn't even look like the same guy.
Wow.
You look at that together. That guy did that in one visit. Now, think about that. Conor McGregor, the MMA fighter. 8 months ago or whatever, he fought Khabib. And he went in there with his torso kind of like this and all balled up and couldn't breathe. The Cowboy fight happened about 60 days ago. Maybe a little longer, maybe 90 days ago. My job was I had him 12 days out from the fight. I got to see him once for 3 hours and said, when you do what I tell you, not if you do what I tell you. When you do what I tell you, I promise you a different body going into this fight. And the difference was this versus this. And he went in and won in like 42 seconds versus going 3 rounds and getting choked out in a fight that he had no chance to win because his body was in the wrong position, failing his talent. But he's a very smart athlete. The minute Egoscue took hold of him and did the exercises, he instantly bought in and said, I'm in. I got this. I'm going to breathe better. I have more power and I can move better. Well, the same thing for the triathlete. The same thing for your friend going to the gym. If you want to get the most out of the workout with the least amount of effort, then just do a little bit of Egoscue before as a setup, which is why my NFL teams, when the NFL guys do this, their functional movement is so much stronger. And they last in the NFL much longer.
Brian, you say that lying on our back is a key. Can you explain that?
I love that. So what I mean by that is laying in this position. You'd be laying on your back at home, and this is around 18 inches high. Just this alone. Now, let me sign this because it's authentic art. It's one of one. Just that position alone. Laying on your back, palms up, just waiting for the body to adjust into the floor, has a massive difference on somebody's upper back. Remember the triathlete, he was all rounded like this. Part of the exercises were to get him to do that, to change that head position.
Brian, how did Tony Robbins become a fan of Egoscue Method?
That's a great question. So I've known Tony for about 27 years. He was one of my first, clients that I really had a chance to work on. I had no idea who he was. And he comes into my office and he's like, he's doing his power move and all this other stuff, but he's bent over. And he's 6'7", but he was bent over to about 5'10" in a back spasm, having been thrown off of a polo horse. We gave him the exercises. He stood up and went to like 6'8". And he said, I have never felt straighter in my life. What did you do? And I said, well, I didn't do a thing. You did. which is his mentality too. He's like, you're right. You didn't do a thing. I did. You coached me. That's right. We coached him. And from that point on, he said, every day of my life, I'm doing some Egoscue the minute I roll out of bed. So it's the foundation for all of his other stuff. So for example, I drew this up the other day because we were talking about just some things. If the Egoscue method is in the middle, then whatever's on the outside gets better based on doing your Egoscue as your foundational work. And everything changes. You want your bicep to be bigger? Stop training your bicep in a shoulder position that's here. Or when you're doing bench press, when you're holding the bar like this, if I'm back here and I bench press like this, I'm good. Look at my shirt. But the minute I do this, now I'm training my joint instead of the muscle itself. Like this is flabby versus out here, there's some tension in the muscle. So you'll get double the gains with half the effort.
Thank you, Brian. Brian, can you explain what is east-west breathing?
Oh, that's awesome. I love that you have that question. In fact, why don't we do this? Anyone who's listening to this or watching this, we will give you the East-West breathing course that I shot for free because it is absolutely critical in this COVID-19 time to know how to breathe more correctly. Now, it's a 5-video series, education, all that stuff. If you're bored, you can skip the first 2, go to the 3rd one, which might have the exercises. But in general, East-West breathing means if you put your hands around your waist and you breathe, you'll feel that most people go, and they breathe up, which is north, and south, which is down. I'd rather have them do the same breath, and it pushes out, and then pushes back in. So it's not that we're just teaching you how to breathe. We're pulling you out of the posture alignment that's not allowing you to breathe east-west. Now, the reason why you feel it in your abdominal wall around the side and in your back is not because you're breathing into your stomach, but your diaphragm sits right here, like an umbrella. And when you contract and breathe correctly with your diaphragm goes like this and contracts downward to a reverse umbrella, which sucks more air into your lung tissue. So the whole thing about east-west breathing is critical. It's absolutely critical. So I'll commit to this. Anybody that goes to the URL that I'm going to give you, okay? It'll be like egoscue.com/digital, and they write in there, hey, I came from this YouTube page, and basically I would like the east-west breathing, and I would like to know if I can be evaluated. Is there a chance for somebody to take a look at me and tell me if I'm a candidate for your coaching program? Then yeah, we'll do that. So remember, when you guys are going to bnsgokugreat, right? bnsgokugreat, and you're watching this and listening to it and sending it to your friends, you're literally saving lives by teaching them how to breathe better.
Thank you so much, Brian. You are awesome. Brian, what mistakes do you see people make while moving?
That's a short answer. By moving, well, there's no such thing as bad movement. So here's another video. Sorry, I use these all the time because they're so powerful. This is a kid who has a knee issue, and in physical therapy, they were having him on this machine, and look how his legs never go behind him. Everything's in front of him. So he's missing the crucial toe off or hip extension. That's a problem. So in the United States especially, this machine, especially when I see 25 women on it and they're trying to lose weight, and they're not moving their hips, and 6 months later, their hips are like this, 12 months later, their hips are like this, but everywhere else in their body, they lost weight because there's a blockage at the hip. And there's two words I want you to know about. The woman actually thinks that she's fat, F-A-T. She's not. She's P-H-A-T, which is part of the lymphatic word. So when you think that you're overweight and, oh, I just can't lose this, maybe you're toxic with fluid caught up in your lymph system, especially at the channels in your hips where things are supposed to drain upward in the lymph system. And it's not happening. So we've got to get you to a point where you're more functional, so your plumbing system, like that brain tissue I showed you, the plumbing system can work the way that it should.
Thank you, Brian. Brian, can you give some tips for the people who work all day long in front of computers?
100%. 100%. Well, number one, they're going to subscribe to your page, of course, and then get my East-West breathing course, of course, which is free from us. You can have it. But when I have them on screen and I'm doing some evaluations with my team, we're going to give them an idea of how quickly their body can change from before to after. How do you do that? I have 1 minute to get someone to feel and to see the difference. So I'm either the hero or I'm the zero if it doesn't work. But the cool part is I'm cheating. The human body always responds to the Egoscue exercises in a functional way. Always. So what I want you to think about is, if somebody were to stand up from their chair and they said, I need a break from sitting for so long, and they were to take their toes and put them pigeon-toed, 45 degrees, and then tighten up their thigh muscles so the feet are turned in, their thighs are tight, that'll stick their hips out a little bit, and then interlace their hands together like this and pull their elbows back for 1 minute. There will be a massive change in their physiology after, when they start walking around going, wow, my back's not as tight, I can breathe better, even if it's temporary, until they start doing the sequence of exercises that we tell them to do that's specific for them to move them into the next level.
Brian, thank you very much for that. Brian, what shoes do you recommend to the people?
Great question. I recommend any shoe that can bend and fold up. So like in India, I would imagine there are people with more flexible shoes there than they have in the United States. So give me your typical shoe that you would walk around in India.
Many people walk with sandals.
And are those sandals stiff or do they move a little bit?
It moves a little bit.
A little bit or a lot?
A lot, we can say that, yes.
Good. That's why your population in India, in my opinion, is so much more functional than what we are in the United States, because we think that movement is taking our dog for a walk. When many people in India, Australia, Japan, where we have clinics in Japan, I've seen them, Australia, we're putting up clinics. I even have a couple people interested in clinics in India. I can't wait to open up clinics there because I think the population can get better faster. Because you have a better grounding of exercises. Let me show you. So I have an 18-year-old kid. Okay, he's a soccer player. Here's him at the age of 14 with zero weightlifting, no weightlifting. But I made him move like he lived in India. Listen, let me change that. I made him move like he's a very poor child who lived in India. Someone with no money. running, surviving, climbing, jumping, crawling, whatever. We made him play as much as he could and look at his back and his body compared to everybody else. Now, that was 4 years ago. Having said that, here's his body in a run, a 200-meter run. He's in the back in the white shirt. This is the first time he ran track. And he won by 40 meters. He just destroyed them. So the shoes you wear are all garbage, in my opinion, when your body is fighting those shoes. Now, here's what I would tell my United States customers. I know you're not going to move to India to be healthier. They should, because they could use the mindset change too. But I know they're not going to move. In our minds, we have it too good here. But you better start thinking like you live in a place where movement is essential. Japan, walk, you ever ride the train? Riding the train is a sport because your body has to make adjustments. But we sit in a car, and many times we have a driver take us somewhere. And then we get on the elliptical, which only has our legs going in front of us, and we wonder why we're unhealthy. So there is a pair of shoes that I'm a big fan of called Xero shoes, Xero. They're called Xero shoes. And my friend Steven has the company. He developed it when he met Pete Egoscue. So he said, wow, I should build a barefoot shoe that supports this. And he's doing very well. It's an amazing shoe company because they believe in barefoot. Even their sandals are like super barefoot. So it's not necessarily what you put on your feet. It's what you do above your feet. And then you could pretty much wear whatever you want, but there are more functional shoes out there. And the test is, does the shoe move? And I'm not talking just at the front. Does the whole shoe move? Can you twist it?
Brian, what about Vibram shoes?
I love them. I love them. So the shoes you're talking about are the 5-finger shoes. Okay, so you have to be okay with wearing 5-finger shoes. Do you know what I mean? So I love them because they're good for my business. People always ask me, well, those shoes are interesting. What do you do? How do you like them? So then it leads into a discussion. But I'm going to show your audience a picture. Okay, so let's look at this picture. So you have this shoe, which is a great shoe. I have like 10 pair of them, by the way. But you have to be okay with your toes looking like that. And they're an amazing shoe. Now, having said that, these shoes are the same type of idea, just with a wider toe box. Okay. That shoe, I could roll it up and put it in my pocket. So which shoe do you want to be seen in? Now, for me, I love the Vibram 5 fingers, but I have probably 10 pair of these also. I do have one pair of stiff Nike shoes that make me taller.
Brian, can you share a testimonial which you remember till date? I know there are many, but if you have to choose one.
Let me go to my pictures again. This guy, well, here's one, 78 years young, out of Japan. Her name's Masa. That's before and after one visit. I'm sorry, same visit, a little later in the day, and you can see by the coloring in the background that like the sun is setting, so it's darker. chronic back pain. She thought she was broken. She thought she was stuck. And when she realized, when she saw these pictures, she starts crying. And she's going, I feel so much better. I feel so much better. This guy is a producer in Los Angeles. He makes horror films like, Friday the 13th and stuff like that. This guy, before and after in 8 weeks, look at his stomach. Does it look like he lost weight? He did not lose any weight. He got taller. And his biggest thing was not to get taller. It was to feel better because his back hurt so much he could not pick up his son. This one is a billionaire out of Mexico who had all the money in the world but lived in chronic pain and now lives pain-free. That's why I tell you, this is no joke. Like, it's not a joke. Like, people, I mean, I have a stupid sense of humor. I know I joke around a lot, but I'm doing it to break people's minds of, I'm stuck, I'm broken. Like, I know there are people listening to this who are saying, yeah, but what about me? I'm a special case. You know what? You are a special case, because I've worked on 100,000 people with herniated discs and back pain. I've worked on 100,000 people with degenerative hips or broken ankles, but we haven't seen yours. And when we see yours, you'll become one of those people. Now I've worked on 100,001. Because we got to shift your mindset to, I hope you can help me, to I believe I can get help. There's a big difference. Hope is not a strategy. There's a big circle, there's a big hole in hope. But belief is something that is a mind shift and a feeling. And when you can change that feeling, it's a game changer.
That's amazing, Brian. And as we see in that picture of Japanese, many people in India, especially in old age, we can see in India and many Asian countries like that. So I think it will really help a lot of people to live in a state of pain-free. Thank you for that.
Well, let's change what you just said. You don't think it will help them. You know it will help them. Because they're thinking maybe it'll help. No. How do you know? You've got to give it a try.
Yes, Brian. Brian, now we have questions from subscribers. So, Stephen is asking, can a person with knee issues squat?
100%. Let me go to my phone again. I'm so glad I saved these pictures. This guy owns a CrossFit in, I think, Norway. Here's him in the red as a test, trying to bend over. And you can see how all the roundness in his back is doing the work. And then after one exercise, his back in the green moves so much better. And no pain, by the way, after. But here's the same guy attempting a squat on one side where he's bent over here. Okay? You can see that first one, how he has that mound in his back, and on the second one, he is much more vertical. So if you want to take the stress off your knees, don't worry about your knees. Because remember, this bone makes the top part of the knee joint. Where's the bone come from? What's the other end of the bone? So put your hand on your thigh. Take your hand down to your knee. That's called the distal end of that bone, the femur. Now move it back up to your hip, and that's the proximal part. So the hip dictates knee function. Through that bone. Does that make sense?
Yes, Brian. Brian, now Dan is asking, what are some tips to use in everyday life to strengthen ourselves?
Let's say someone's doing push-ups or a sit-up challenge or the elbow plank challenge. Did you ever see that one? You know where people do the elbow plank? Oh, it's a fun one. This guy was the world record holder. Tell me what's wrong with that.
Round curvature.
Yes, look at his back. No wonder he held it for a couple hours. The bones were doing the work. So when somebody's doing this movement or push-ups or sit-ups, how about we change the body going to that exercise first? So sit-ups are a sport, train for it. Sleeping is a sport, train for it, you'll sleep better. Sitting is a sport, it doesn't have to hurt you. So to answer his question, do the exercises in order first, and then you'll get a better outcome on the backside.
Thank you, Brian. Brian, Tom is asking, I have plantar fasciitis and have sharp pain at the base of my heel. What exercise do you recommend to reduce the pain?
Congratulations. Because plantar fasciitis, by the way, is no fun. If people listening don't know what it is, it's like walking on glass in the morning. It's like stepping onto sharp pieces of glass in the morning until the fascia finally reacts to the foot and it changes. The cool part about fascia is because it's an interweb. Picture it like a super thick spider web all around the body. So if I do something to my fascia up here, or I move my fascia here based on neck movement, it could release my plantar fasciitis in my foot. That's how amazing fascia is. Now, the cool part is that I know what he's doing. He's already put a ball under there and he's rubbed it on his foot. He's done this kind of stuff and done this. He's taken ice and done this. Complete waste of time. Because there's a reason why the fascia is, quote, bound up in the first place or has become immovable. You don't stretch fascia. You don't even stretch a muscle, ever. There's no such thing. What you do is you change how the two attachments are reacting to the rest of the body. Change the bony alignment back to this. And now you have a better fascia reaction. So my question to him would be, this is Tom, right?
Yes.
Let's pretend Tom is 65 years young. Hey, Tom, which foot hurts? Oh, it's my left, but it's because I'm getting older. Think about that statement. It's my left foot, but don't worry about it. It's because I'm getting older. Really, Tom? I just have a question. How old's the other foot? So age is not the problem. It's the imbalance that you're taking to life. Get rid of the imbalance and you've solved the problem.
Thank you, Brian. Brian, would you like to share a 7-day challenge to our subscribers?
Ooh, 7-day challenge. 7-day challenge. Because of COVID-19, I don't even know what 7 days is anymore. This has been a 90-day, one long week for me. I don't have weekends. Yeah. Number 1, double your water intake. Number 1, double your water intake. Number 2, lay down on your stomach with your forehead like this on the floor or your bed, mainly the floor, and breathe so that you're almost breathing into your back. Teach your body how to east-west breathe a little bit, but because you're on your stomach can't escape forward. It's going to push pressure out here. You could literally breathe yourself out of back pain because you take over 22,000 breaths per day, but we're breathing like this, especially when we get more stressed or our body is failing us on the posture side. So there's 2 things. The third one, go for a walk once a day for at least another 1,000 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, but make it a deliberate walk. And for some of that walk, put your hands behind your head with your elbows back like this. It'll look a little weird, but some people might get away with it. And you'll feel that that walk completely changes when you do that. You get those 3 things done in 7 days, you're going to be a different person after 7 days. And the fourth thing is you could lay down on your back in this position for 20 minutes at night. And if you have to prop your head up because it hurts to put it back, then put a small pillow back there. But if you can, get on the floor and then have your head sit right on the floor. 4 things for 7 days. Anybody can do that.
Thank you, Brian, for issuing the 7-day challenge. And before we leave, can you share once again where to connect with you and know the Egoscue method so that they will remember it better?
Yep, let me see if I can put this up there where you can see it. So this is, I'll just show you that part. Egoscue.com. Okay. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook is the Brian Bradley. Instagram, Facebook for Egoscue is at Egoscue Method or the Egoscue Method on Facebook. And I answer my Brian Bradley one as much as possible if you have questions, because some people might be thinking, you know, am I a candidate for this? The URL that I'll give you is egoscue.com/digital, digital, digital. And egoscue.com/digital, when they type in the notes down there, say, can I get the east-west breathing offer from your podcast? Make sure they mention who, what, where, when, all that stuff, and then we'll send it to them.
Thank you so much, Brian, for enlightening us today. Thank you once again for coming to the show.
Listen, it honestly was my pleasure. I think we covered a lot of great material, and I think that we'll have people thinking a little differently after this show and feeling a little differently that they're not alone and they're not broken if they have chronic pain. And if they want to perform at the next level, then they've got to get their body's dysfunction out of the way, or they're going to get frustrated. So if we can help them with that alone, today was a success.
Yes, Brian. I know it is a success.
All right. Thank you for your time. Hey guys, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel bnsgokugreat, bnsgokugreat.